Alrighty, great. I am now open the Lacey Commission on Equity meeting on July 28th, 2025, 5:30 p.m. Great, we are quorum, everybody's here except John is not here. Okay, John is not here and also one more person.
Commissioner Garza.
Commissioner Garza. And then
Commissioner
youth
Hegwin just showed up.
Oh, great. That's true.
Julian and John, yeah,
It's the security last.
I know.
Okay, so we have quorum and we can go forward. So what's on the agenda is, okay, the Commissioner Garza is excused. Everybody else is here. Carolyn is not here, right? She's done. Was she, one more?
She's here.
She's here,
Last
great.
meeting.
I think I have an August one too.
All right, so land acknowledgement and Commissioner Clay is gonna read that for us, please.
We, the city of Lacey, are on the ancestral land of the tribal people of the Treaty of Medicine Creek, including the Nisqually Indian Tribe and Squaxin Indian Tribe, Island Tribe. We acknowledge and remember those tribal people not recognized today who were absorbed or relocated into other tribes for survival. We recognize the ancestors and their descendants who are still here. We recognize and respect the tribal people of the Treaty of Medicine Creek as the traditional stewards of this land since time immemorial. And their role today is in taking care of these lands in perpetuity. We recognize and have the responsibility to call attention to the histories of dispossession, forced removal, and abridged treaty rights that allowed our nation, state, and city to develop as we have today. We recommend that the community members read the Medicine Creek Treaty of 1854.
Thank you. All right, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the approval of the agenda and previous meeting minutes and consent items.
I move approval of the agendas, previous meeting minutes, and consent items.
I second.
Okay, it has been moved and second to the to approve these items. All in favor, say
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, all opposed? Okay, items have been approved. Public comments. We don't have anyone signed in advance, so we have no public comments. All right, then we can go to business item, just moving right along, right?
Inspiration,
Inspiration item, Dr. Jackson, Vice Chair.
moving right along. In thinking about what I could say or present and by way of inspiration today, I was thinking about all we're bombarded with on the news, given our task as an equity commission, where there is such an attack on diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging all over the country in every respect of our society. So thinking in terms of all of that in relation to us and what we're trying to do as a small commission in a small city, town in the US of A, where do we fit into this? And trying to think of what quote I could share. And I thought about a quote that I often remind myself about in my community activities. So I'll share a quote from Margaret Mead, an American cultural anthropologist and author who lived between 1901 and 1978. And the particular quote that I remember and having a big framed piece says, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." We're a small group of committed people. Then she goes on to say, and thinking about the times in which we live, what people say, what people do, and what people say they do are entirely different things. And we have an awful lot of people talking out of both sides of their mouths these days. They're saying one thing and doing another. And it's groups like us that have to keep our eye on the prize and remind them of what they said versus what they're doing. And just keep pushing as a small group of citizens that hopefully, when it's all said and done, a difference will be made.
What a great reminder, so it just hits the right spot for me, for everybody. So thank you very much. Business items. So we have a Veterans Active Duty Family Community Forum recap by Peyton Griffin.
Just sit right here, please, and I'll start the presentation for you, and then we can jump right on in. And while I'm getting that fired up and ready here, I do just want to take a point of privilege here to introduce Peyton Griffin. Peyton is our rock star intern in our communications department. Peyton's been working for the city for, I believe, 8 months now.
Since December.
And has done just really incredible work in that 8 months. It's been an absolute blast to work with Peyton and see all of the phenomenal things that you've been doing and able to learn and just really pick up and run with as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Peyton, and Peyton's going to give us a update on the community forum.
Thank you. I guess she introduced me, so I don't need to do that anymore, but good evening. And as we've already said, I'm here to recap the key takeaways from the Veterans Active Duty and Families Community Forum. On May 28th, the Commission on Equity held this forum at the Lacey Veteran Services Hub, and there were around 32 attendees. That was made up of veterans, active duty members, family members, and then also panelists. And those panelists presented at the end of the small group discussions on different organizations and resources that are available. The format of it was small group discussions, and there were attendees at every table, as well as at least one commissioner and a city staff member taking notes. And the focus of it was really to just understand the lived experiences of this specific group and focus on equity, inclusion, and participation in our community. To connect policy to practice, I've included just this little snippet from our diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging strategic plan. And that reads, enhance relationships and opportunities in the community for continued dialogue and knowledge sharing among the city, partner entities, and community members through events, programs, forums, art, etc. So the rest of this document can be found on the city's DEIV webpage, and this specific part can be found on page 109 of the document if you're looking at the page numbers. And then if you're looking at the PDF numbers, it includes the cover page, so it would be page 110. And it's just showing that it's part of ongoing efforts to hold things like forums, and that's exactly what this was, to just kind of see what different things we could achieve that are outlined in that strategic plan and check things off one at a time. So to start with what Lacey does well, a lot of participants said that Lacey is seen as more welcoming than other cities in the area. And that was definitely the biggest takeaway looking at everybody's notes. That was a really good thing to hear. And there's a lot of community respect for military identity. And something that I found really nice was just that people said, not only is there community respect for military identity, but specifically when wearing identifying attire. So if people are in uniform, they feel a lot more respected, and like people are actually more comfortable coming out and saying something and thanking them for their service and things like that. So that was definitely a good takeaway. And something that I noticed is support networks such as the Lacey Veteran Services Hub or local businesses or organizations play a really big role in this because they create this local support and recognition in the community, and that helps to get the community on the same page and feel very welcoming of the veterans and active duty members in our community. So just wanted to recognize that. There is also people noted that there is representation of diverse identities in our community, And there were a lot of stories told about the meaningful inclusion of these identities, from family involvement to just visible diversity walking around our community. And then also recognition of all military identities beyond just being associated with the military. So people have felt more recognized if they're a part of LGBTQIA+, or if they're people of color and they're also veterans or active duty members, they feel that that is also recognized as part of who they are and not just one or the other. And so just kind of the whole identity being recognized. So I just want to start this slide by saying that everything that I just talked about in the positives is good, and we like to hear that, but that doesn't mean that it stops there, and we're obviously still trying to improve on those things and continue to better ourselves as a city and really make everyone feel welcome beyond what was already shared. And there are definitely still things that we need to work on. So to go over the areas for improvement, inclusion must go beyond the surface, meaning that we can't just, as a community, we need to actually be inclusive and have genuine inclusivity and really show that we care about these people instead of just saying that we're being inclusive but not actually showing it in our actions, kind of like Commissioner Jackson was saying in her little piece that she shared. And the symbolic respect needs to just be matched is kind of the gist of that. There's also a need for broader recognition of diversity and the diverse military experience. Not everyone is going to look the same or have the same identities. Everybody's unique. And so just multiple people said that they would like to see more of a recognition of other identities, even though some people on the previous slide said that they feel that those identities are recognized. So just kind of seeing both sides of that coin. And then they want more inclusive celebrations that go beyond the military identity as ways for veterans and active duty members to really connect with the community. And so as the feedback we received was that there are events that are honoring things like that, like honoring veterans, active duty members, and have ways for them to connect. And then there are other events that maybe are just for the community and they just want more opportunities that are accessible for them to intermingle with the community in a way that still highlights the work that they've done. So not just big events, like for example, July 3rd, that's an event for the community to just come together, but maybe just have some sort of like booth or something implemented where they can kind of talk about their experiences and what they feel that they've given to the community. And then the next point is early civic engagement pathways. This was one that was very common and people just feel that they want to be more involved. They want to have more of a voice in what's going on in Lacey, and they want their perspectives to just be in the mix. And a big piece of feedback we received for why this is not happening is that certain people don't feel that communication is getting out there so that they know about these opportunities early enough. So they find out about them either after the time to apply has already passed or the time to give feedback has already passed, or they just feel that they're not seeing it at all. And so just that kind of goes into my next bullet point. We need stronger outreach, and some places that would be good to really push things out to are JBLM, local colleges, and underserved groups, just making sure that those areas are really hearing about these opportunities. And those are actually examples that were given in the forum of places that people look for things. They look for things when they're on the JBLM campus, and then also at colleges, and that would just be direct ways that we could get the word out there for things that we're doing in Lacey. Moving on to barriers identified. Some of these can be beyond Lacey at times. Some of these things are not fully within our control, but we do have resources that I'm gonna jump into a little bit later. For now, I just wanna look at the barriers themselves that came up in the forum and kind of go through those. And to start, it's really difficult to navigate the complex systems like VA and TRICARE. And that was something that is a major struggle just across the board. That's definitely one that people have a really hard time with. And so behavioral health needs and other needs that people have aren't necessarily being met because they don't know how to navigate these systems or don't know how to file claims, and just a bunch of different little sub-problems within this big complex system. And there was just a lot of that. And then housing insecurity, job instability, and food insecurity. these basic necessities, people feel that they're having a hard time getting access to these things. And this was credited by some people to a lack of preparation to transition into civilian systems post-discharge. One thing I do want to note on that point is that this experience can vary for people depending on when they were discharged. And in 2018, there was a congressional mandate that people had to go through the TAP program, which is the Transition Assistance Program. And this program is supposed to help ready people to then make that transition. 2018, it was congressionally mandated, and before that it was not. And so it was kind of up to different leaders to decide what their teams were gonna do and what their people were gonna do, and that didn't always result in them having them go through that program. In 2019, more amendments were made to this to make it much more comprehensive so that it really did help with preparation for post-discharge. But then again, we can't discount the fact that not everyone had the opportunity to go through that program. And to people who were discharged before then, it wasn't required and they may not have had a say in whether or not they got to go through it. And then also on the other side of that, I don't want to discount the fact that people who did go through that program maybe didn't find it as helpful as others, depending on certain situations or the way that they learn or anything like that. Like there are a bunch of different things that that can be credited to, but everyone has a different experience with this, and that was just some feedback. The next point I wanted to make is that there's limited access for spouses and immigrant family members. So with military, active duty members can be gone for long periods of time, and spouses of these active duty members can be left to kind of navigate things on their own. And then just to kind of use the lens of immigrant spouses, if they're left to handle things alone in a new country, that just adds a whole nother layer of difficulty. And so that is just a major call. There's a major call for resources to help families and spouses of active duty members and veterans, because when you're a veteran, you can have a whole nother set of things that you're dealing with, set of challenges, and yeah, just kind of getting help for families and yeah.
If I may comment on this slide, Jonathan and I have experiences with going through like each of those bullets. When I left, the TAP program was brand new, very crude. I didn't find it helpful at all at that time because it was geared toward the low and mid-level enlisted soldiers. So as an officer, senior officer, there was nothing really, that I, found helpful. But it grew over the years, and I'm sure by the time Jonathan came out, it was more comprehensive and more involved where you could transition. But then later on, as an HR person and doing some employment with a major company, we found that to be one of the biggest challenges, in that the soldiers had not properly prepared to transition. And we have to really push for civilian organizations to go in and talk with the soldiers and spend time with them and be a part of the transition program, because you got a retired soldier talking to them about transitioning out into the civilian world. When they left military and went right in to work for the government, they didn't have the experience. So those from private sector and then those veterans from private sector became a part of the TAP program to help them and give them a realistic view of what they were facing when they came out. And the same thing with the spouses, we got involved, and there were programs where you worked with the spouses as they and their families transition out. So the program really grew and developed over the years, and it's quite good now. But the problem we have with soldiers transitioning out is the same thing with them coming back from war and PTSD and all those other things. You can offer all of this stuff to them, but you can't make them do it, And those who won't participate end up, having, some of the issues. So while it's mandatory, still, you can't force them to be a part of it, and that's where some of the challenges come in. And this organization here in Lacey they're in a great place to be another party to help, to encourage them to participate. You can't be too much encouragement, because if they won't participate, then they're just out there, trying to do their very best and listening to all the wrong advice and losing time and money and family suffering through that. So I didn't know if Jonathan wanted to share his experience, but yeah.
Yeah, similar. I think Cliff, you and I transitioned only a few years apart, but yeah, even whenever I went through it, TAPS was nowhere near as comprehensive as it is now. On the plus side, I will say it's the best it's ever been, from what I understand. I've attended a few of the briefings myself in other capacities, and it's definitely a lot more comprehensive than I remember it. It's been 13 years now for me. That being said, though, kind of along the same lines that Cliff mentioned, there's the other downside is that it's a one-size-fits-all solution, not an individualized plan on how to transition successfully. And like what career prospects look like for you, and having a game plan, and what marketable skills do you have, like where are your shortcomings, what do you need work on, what can be tackled now versus like long-term goals, what is like a 1, 3, and 5 year goal. All of these different things aren't really talked about or discussed or handled. And I guess they really can't be in that format as it's currently existing. And even still, you have a lot of soldiers, or I guess service members in general, who still aren't set up for success on their transition to civilian life. And then, yeah, even still, you have people that just don't want to participate because they're too busy being involved with the military. They think they have a solid plan, and then it all falls through, and now they don't have a backup. Which I've seen. I don't know about you, Cliff, but I've seen that time and time again, where they're, oh, I'm going to work for the government. I'm going to be a GS-24, which doesn't exist, by the way. And then, that one offer that they were counting on falls through for whatever reason. And, now they just like go back home and live with their parents for the next 10 years while they try to figure out their life because they didn't have any other preparation. So I think that's something that the city specifically might have a role in helping to formulate some kind of plan, whether that looks like career assistance or like resume review through like the Lacey Veterans Hub, which I know we offer. And then there's a few other options as well, but I'll stop.
Yeah, no, thank you for both of your perspectives. That's good to hear, just because I haven't personally been in your shoes. So yeah, thank you both. And I will go into the Vet Hub, that the Vet Hub offers in a little bit. And so just my final point on this slide, there are also communication gaps, which I touched on previously, and some want more mobile communications and some also want more print. And I think a lot of that could be generational, and it could also just be people's preferences on how they want to receive communications. But a big takeaway that I had from the forum was that many people were unaware that the Lacey Veteran Services Hub even existed until the forum. They saw that it was on the flyer or wherever they saw the event being put out there. They noticed, oh, I don't know what this place is, and they had to look it up. And so just knowing that, and knowing that many resources are being missed by those who need it most just simply because they didn't know that it was an option, is something that I think would be really good to focus on, and just getting the word out there about that resource in particular, as well as some of the other ones that Lacey has. And then moving on to DEIB Insights. There was a major desire to be part of DEIB efforts and not as an afterthought. Definitely more involved in the conversation as collaborators and potentially leaders. And the next point, there were experiences of bias in services and community, and we heard multiple stories about racial and cultural barriers that still show up in Lacey. And again, going back to what I said about the positives versus things we need to improve on, some participants did say that this is better than in other areas, but still not good. And so even though that's not specific to veterans, active duty members, and their family members, it is definitely something that was brought up. And I just want that point to still be heard, even though it's not necessarily the specific topic we were talking about. And then my next bullet point, there's a need for safe, inclusive spaces. So this goes back to the previous slide as well, these groups want to integrate into community and be seen as more than just veterans and active duty members. They want to actually feel like they're a part of something outside of that, because whether they've been discharged or they're still serving, it's just nice to have some other things that you can look forward to and other outlets. And this can be through systems that affirm all identities and see people and their families in all forms, those who are kind of connected. Intersectional identities, some feedback we received on that is just that it's nice at times to really like zoom in and look at the different parts of our own identities or the people around us, but something that is desired is to not have that all the time and sometimes just be seen as a mosaic of all the different identities that make up a person. So just some insights there. And then now to go into the vet hub, since Lacey does offer some things that address what I've previously talked about. I'm just going to give a little summary of all of the points. So benefits, the hub can help with VA claims, education benefits, and medical eligibility so that veterans and active duty members are getting everything that they've already earned. And they have the help of veteran service officers, which are also known as VSOs. And they'll sit down and they'll help you go through the whole process and navigate things, and that's what their job is. And so that's a really good one. And then moving on to employment, they help with finding employment, some training, resume review, interview practice, all of those things. Housing, they work to assist with housing, and for houseless veterans or people who are just struggling with the housing that they have every Thursday at 10 a.m. there's a little group that meets at the hub that talks about different programs and things that can assist with that. There's financial assistance, counseling, and classes to veterans in need Monday through Friday. For counseling, there's on-site counseling and peer-to-peer support for veterans and their families. And moving on to education, they help veterans prepare to go back to school and show them the different things that they can do to make it affordable and the different programs that they can enter into to make this a reality, because going to school is not the easiest thing. And so just making sure that it's as smooth as possible and they can still have access to that education. And then nutrition, there are nutrition classes, and they're partnered with the Thurston County Food Bank as a satellite food bank location Monday through Friday. For healthcare, they're in partnership with the American League Veterans Affairs campus to provide limited healthcare coverage to those in need. And then veteran service officers, like I already said, can sit down and help navigate paperwork and the complex systems that we already talked about. And then there are legal services offered to veterans through on-site volunteer attorneys and through the Northwest Justice Project. And then finally, for transportation, there is, they offer transportation to the hub and to medical appointments for any veterans in Thurston County. It's not just Lacey, very widespread. Okay, engagement and next steps. So as I feel like I'm touching on all the same things. Sorry, I keep repeating myself, but we're gonna promote civic participation a little bit more. I think that was a good one to look at and help get people involved who want to be involved. We are going to try using varied outreach methods to try to get the word out there about all the services that the hub offers, as well as other organizations. And then also for more events like the forum that we just had, just letting people know what's out there. And then celebrating veterans, active duty, and families as contributors, and also including them in decisions. And then finally, creating inclusive community events and spaces, just seeking ways to improve events and help people feel more welcome to come to events, and then also potentially reaching out and trying to get feedback to see what different ways specifically we can make things more accessible and make things feel a little bit more inclusive for this group of people. And then I also want to note that we have a new Vet Hub coordinator, and he is already seen my presentation, heard my presentation, he's gone through my notes, everything. We've communicated a lot on this and he is already starting to see like the different ways that he can implement the things that we're talking about and is very excited to do so.
Is that for the city?
Mhm.
Oh, wow.
Let me just add a little bit onto that. So we do have a new hub coordinator, Brian Wanigan. And they will likely be coming to a future meeting, just talk a little bit about some of the efforts we're gonna be taking at the hub over the next couple of months and in the short term and then long-term planning. But I just wanted to stress what Peyton just said too about meeting with Brian to go over the presentation and kind of say, you know, this is what we heard and what kind of efforts can we take a look at making here in the next couple of months to get the word out on the existence of the Lacey Veteran Services Hub and also just all of the partnerships and connections that it is connected to. And in addition to that, Peyton also gave the same presentation to our communications manager and our communications team. So Donna Feliciano is sitting right behind me, who is our communications specialist. And so one of the things that our communications team is going to be tasked with is looking at how can we get better outreach and engagement to spread the word that we have these resources and that we also have opportunities for engagement. So we'll be working on that actively in the short term.
Oh, that's great. I was there and for you to get all that from that meeting is incredible.
Thank you.
So the note, I know we took note and
Yeah.
did we record it or? Oh, it was mainly based on note.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was at a table with Commissioner Jackson and Commissioner Higwood. That's how you pronounce it?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. It's
Yeah, and so I got to listen to one group's small group conversations and then obviously got to hear the whole group talk about their takeaways for each question. So yeah, but just notes and I received the notes from every table as well.
Okay,
So
wow, that's
that helps.
very impressive that you were able to get all the contents out of the tables that we had because I even see something that I said it there, so I'm like, wow, how is that possible? It's a great job, wow.
Thank you. I have one more slide, just some closing thoughts. The city is going to use kind of like Shannon was just saying, we're gonna use the Forum Insights as a roadmap for future equity work, both short-term and long-term, and really center the lived experiences of this group and beyond in future planning. Thank you. Thank you.
Like I said, Peyton does fantastic work.
Uh-huh.
And I think one of the things we really are interested in hearing, you know, Peyton's done a really good job of synthesizing all of that information. But was there anything that we didn't capture that's missing that we should add to the notes? Because those notes will be attached to our diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging strategic plan. You all will approve them at our next meeting. So this would be an opportunity if there is something that we missed to make sure that it gets added.
I just have one thing. So with the relationship we have with the hub, is there a way to, when we have city-sponsored events and activities, that they have a definite input on it? Format or a place where they can participate and be a part of, or make it more patriotic, or make, you know, have military something or another involvement in the planning piece? If we could just run it by them a little bit or have them, we have the opportunity to contribute.
Yeah, absolutely is the answer to that. And so that's one of the reasons, you know, we decided at the hub that we wanted to move forward with a full-time employee there. And so they are a City of Lacey employee. And so our hope is that we can continue to enhance the connection between what's going on here at the city and some of the services that are being provided there. And one of the things we're gonna really emphasize is helping build up their media and social media presence so we can achieve some of the things that were identified as part of this forum, but also so that we can make sure that they're integrated, infused into some of our own planning processes to make sure that they are a seat at the table to bring a veteran's presence.
John also has, Commissioner John?
Yeah, to piggyback on what Cliff said, to throw a military vernacular term in there. In addition to what Cliff said, I'm wondering about actually having like a Lacey Veterans Hub presence at our community events. So like at our Children's Fun Fair, at the cultural celebration, you know, at our Freedom Fest, like all of these things we don't have, I mean, like when we do have like the City of Lacey booth, we may have like a few flyers or what have you, but like having a table with like Lacey Veterans Hub front and center would really grab people's attention. We know veterans and military are attending these events. They're a large part of our community. We should strive to have somebody representing the Veterans Hub and getting the word out about our services and what we offer. And even if like they just have criticisms, right? Like we still want to be there to hear that as well. And so I think that's something that we should be exploring also. The other piece I wanted to add was, oh gosh, I think I'm drawing a blank.
Well, let me
Wait.
give you a little bit of time to think about that.
Okay.
Commissioner. Just respond that you are spot on with the activities that we want to do. We want to increase the presence of the hub at our events. And so right now our comms team is working with our coordinator on ordering some tents, some tablecloths and other materials so that we can make sure that we are out and about and present during big community events and engagement. And not only here in Lacey, but also on Joint Base Lewis McChord and in, Tumwater, Olympia and Greater Thurston County.
Perfect. And that did give me time to think about my second point. Thank you, Shannon. So the second point is to your first question about things that we may have missed in our notes. I want to ensure that we include warm handoffs being a priority. I know for a lot of veterans, perhaps myself included, although I've kind of made it like my life's mission to persevere in spite of that fact. But hurry up and wait is kind of like the name of the game, as Cliff knows, with a lot of things involving the military, government, VA, etc. And I know a lot of veterans get lost in the frustration of the process. And so making sure that the Veterans Hub, that's supposed to be a one-stop shop, isn't another source of that frustration, and making sure that we're prioritizing, warm handoffs to like our community partners, if that's what's necessary, like to our veteran service reps, or, any other resources that maybe take advantage of, instead of just like, oh, well, here's their name and number, or, you can contact this person, or here, I'll send an email and they'll get back to you kind of thing. And making sure that we're actually following through, that we have that warm handoff, so that way they're actually getting the services that we are striving for, and alternatively keeping track of that, because then there could be like veteran service or officers that maybe just aren't good references anymore. We need to make sure that we keep a fresh list of officers that are actually following through and helping veterans that don't just aren't a black hole of references for us to send veterans to, and we don't ever hear anything back or do anything about it.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner.
Dr. Johnson.
In answer to your question about what might have been missed, it wasn't missed so much, but the whole issue of which one was it? Experiences of bias in service and community. There were two veterans at the table. We were sitting at one male, one female, one Army, one Air Force. And they had stories of their disparate treatment here in the community as veterans. And I don't know what the hub can do about it, but to be sensitive to the additional needs of their veterans of color, because it's all of this plus your housing, employment, all of those kinds of things. And so a sizable portion of Lacey's community, communities of color, are veterans, active or whatever. And I did not know about the hub until this gathering. Had no idea that's what was sitting behind OliFed and SBCCE. And many other, particularly Black veterans, don't know about the hub and the services and whatever. So for the hub to be particularly intentional about making sure that their veterans of color are included and feel as though they belong. And I was surprised by the stories. The male officer was telling about, the discriminations and the things he's still subjected to, and the female Air Force veteran. She's invisible in the community, just looked past when waiting on services, and, so I just bring that up. It was alluded to, but not zeroed in on. So if that's something the hub can be more conscious of. So they've got some brothers and sisters of color that once they get out of that service, they're struggling even more in the civilian community. And I heard that come through loudly and clearly at that forum.
Oh, Makita?
Uh, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. To piggyback on that as well, uh, you've also got the veterans that are disabled. Um, that also needs to be something that's brought up. The services that they offer for disabled veterans and the spouses as well, because a lot of the times we're having to move and especially I think there was a situation I was listening to with you guys on the veteran whose job opportunity fell through and they decide to move back home. Well, back home could be here, but back home could also be that the spouse now also has no job. And so, what are the options that are there for the military spouses, the childcare um, issues, the housing issues and shortages, or lack of being able to afford that, jobs for spouses, daycare for any children that they may have. There's so much that's there that they may be able to help with. Um, so getting them also the services. I know I had also heard um, where somebody was talking about, they have to want to do it. And sometimes um, spouses have to kind of not necessarily make them do it, but I know with mine, I had to actually schedule the appointments for them. And that's how we found out about the Veterans Hub. And so my husband ended up getting some of the services there. So just kind of that type of support and support groups, maybe even for spouses that are dealing with uh, veterans that have disabilities or PTSD and having the support for them as well.
Commissioner Hart, I know you brought up support, and I think that's a really good thing to highlight too with what we're hoping to do with the hub in the short and the long term is, we are a staff of one at the hub and we can't do everything. We serve as kind of the connectors with a lot of different organizations. And one of the things we're hoping to build off of is getting more groups to hold events at the hub. And so certainly if you know of organizations, I know you've passed on the Spouses Club before, but if you know of different organizations in the community that it would make sense to have a veterans event at the Lacey Veteran Services Hub, we're hoping to restart those here shortly. So
Yeah.
please send me information and we can connect you with the Lacey Veteran Services Hub coordinator.
Do they have like an event space there? Like I noticed there was an upstairs and a downstairs. Does any of that have where they could hold events and maybe like have a group come in and use that one area as a meeting room for their meetings, maybe like a support group meeting or something like that?
Yep, and that's exactly what we're looking to do and restart up in the meeting space where we held the forum is to make it available for veterans groups
Mm-hmm.
that are open to the community. And so we'll
Okay.
be working with the coordinator on launching that program, relaunching the program shortly, but we'd love to be connected to groups that may be interested. And there have been times where we've hosted events in the past when we know it's a larger crowd at larger spaces as well.
Okay. All right. I'll keep an eye out for groups. I'll do some research.
Thank you.
Just really quick, Shannon, another point of specific action, I guess, that the new Veterans Hub manager could take. The newcomers brief on JBLM is every week or bi-weekly. That could act as a great touch point. Every single soldier that comes onto JBLM or airman goes to this newcomers brief. It is mandatory, much to their chagrin, I'm sure, but point being, it's effectively a large resource fair, and even if they can't make every single week or every other week, whatever it ends up being, it's changed over the years, back and forth. But anyway, it would be a great point for us to make contact with veterans out in the community, even if they don't live in Lacey specifically, but maybe they, the urban growth area or Thurston County in general, because we do offer services to those as well.
I think that's a great recommendation, and I know that was one of the first things that, you know, Brian recommended was that we start to build better relationships with JBLM to help get the word out about the Lacey Veteran Services Hub, so I think that's in alignment with it. And I'm thinking it would be really good to bring Brian in for a commission meeting here in the near future so that we can talk about some of the efforts we're making and you can get to learn a little bit about our new coordinator.
Is the coordinator gonna work here or up there?
They're gonna be predominantly over at the Lacey Veteran Services Hub. Great, well, thank you.
Great, thank you, great job. So, Ms. Shannon, 2025 work plan review.
All right, well, good evening, Chair and Vice Chair and Commissioners. I just wanted to do a quick kind of update. We're hitting halfway through the year, just a little bit over that now at this point, as we look to August being a few days away. And so I did just want to check in on a few items on the work plan and kind of give a holistic overview of what we've done and then where we're headed, looking towards this fall and the end of this quarter. So I'll take a real quick presentation with you all, and these materials are included in the packet, so you can take a deep dive in this, as well as all of the materials that Peyton just went over if you want to take a look at those. But just really quickly, for anybody who may not be aware, so every year the Commission on Equity creates a work plan. This work plan is recommended by the commission. It's then taken to the Lacey City Council for approval, where the Lacey City Council may say, hey, we've got a couple of other items that we're really interested for you all to take a look into. And in fact, they did add an item this year that we've taken a look into. So what I really just want to do with this is just to do a progress report. I know accountability is really big to our commissioners, and so I do want to check in of where we're at and maybe why we are still in progress on some items. They're moving a little bit slower, and how we can wrap up those projects this year by taking a look at what's going to happen over the next few months. So you're all familiar with this. It's based on quarters. I know this is very, very small, but the green are all of the items that we have collectively completed during the first quarter. Yellow represents items that remain in progress, and then red represents items that are on hold for the time being, and I can explain a little bit more for each of these items. But I do just want to highlight, as far as engagement, you have been participants in the Lacey Cultural Celebration. You've held your meeting with the Lacey Youth Council. Moving into policy items, we did launch the equity map, and I know this is one of my director reports, but we're here now, so I should have mentioned this. But we went live with the equity map last Thursday, and so it is now available for community members to take a look at and really dive into, as well as city staff to use it as a tool and a resource. And we've already gotten some really good feedback from some of our staff members on, you know, what it is now and what it could also be in the future. So we're excited about that. And we're hoping that more community members use it. And we want to be talking to our neighboring jurisdictions as well about the tool and the process and what could be kind of future collaborations and connections we could have on that. We also completed the employee survey. So I know Veronica went through the questions with you. We got the survey out, and we are working through the results now internally. We've reviewed other policy documents as they've come up, but kind of the big ones that we focused on has been comprehensive plan. You all know this. We've gone through every chapter of the comprehensive plan with Ryan and his team. And that ties into the comprehensive plan, which is here as well. We have met with the city council and done the annual report out. You all have a recommendation on the community survey option, and that's another item I want to give you an update on here a little bit later. And then finally, you've not only continued planning for the 2025 DEIB Regional Summit, but you held the regional summit. And from everything I've heard, it was an absolute success. So we have a couple of items that we didn't quite get to, and the first one is finalize the paid community liaison program. And this is something that has come to the top of my inbox, and I want to make sure that we're getting adequate attention to, especially as we're coming into budget season. And so I do anticipate that this will be something that's coming before the commission at the next 2 meetings so that we can wrap this item up and make a recommendation to the city council. I will be moving forward with a recommendation in the 2026 budget to go through the budget process. And so that'll certainly be something I'll keep you all up to date on, kind of where we're at as we finalize the policy behind it to get a recommendation to the city council. You can also see we had two on hold items. The first one was the 2024 DEIB strategic report review. And so if you all recall, as part of the diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging strategic plan, we have those reports. And we did actually do one for 2024. We just published it a few months earlier. And after review, we decided that it made more sense for us to wait until the end of this year to update it, to provide an update for 2024, the last 2 or 3 remaining months, but then give the whole year of 2024. So you all can anticipate that we will get a status report update probably sometime in Q1 of 2026 that talks about everything we've done in 2024, both as the commission, but also internally with the city's efforts. And then finally,
So what
Juneteenth.
happens to 2025?
That we would come with 2025, in addition to showing kind of a revised 2024 to add the items, but it would be a full year and then the last couple of months of
Okay.
2024. And that's why we wanted to put it on hold, was it made more sense for us to take a look at, because a lot of the data wasn't gonna be updated, right? It was gonna be some very minor updates and edits. But we will have lots of data for this one, especially because we will be taking a look at the results of the National Community Survey at our next Commission on Equity meeting. And if you'll recall, a lot of the benchmarks established in our plan were predicated on getting results from that survey as a baseline. So we look forward to sharing some of that information with y'all. And then finally, the Juneteenth celebration, we're hopeful that in 2026 that we'll be able to partner with an organization to continue to provide a Juneteenth celebration. Moving into Q2, which we wrapped up, we held a focus group. We had our focus group that we just got the overview from Peyton on. We've also been meeting with our DEIB representatives, and we will be looking into some sort of joint meeting in the future to get some of our educational institutions here as well. But we also held a meeting with the city where we had a kind of table talk forum back a couple months ago at River Ridge, and got to see kind of the remodel and update and engage on a couple of topics there. We continued to work on the comprehensive plan, and we held the summit, as I mentioned. And we have a couple of items though that are still outstanding, and these are the things that, like I mentioned, we want to take a look at here in the last couple months of 2025, which are, in addition to the community liaison program, is to going over our advisory board process and thinking about how we can update that to reduce barriers to participation and make it a more streamlined process also internally. Continuing to review equity tools. This was on hold because we were waiting for the equity map to be finalized as a data point to be helpful in a tool. And so we can now pick this process back up and start working on that. And then start our advisory board recruitment process, which is on there twice. So one of the things we have to start thinking about is Commission on Equity recruitments as well. There are a couple of folks whose term will be coming up at the end of this year. And so determining if you want to continue on for another term is certainly something that would be available to the commissioners. And then that takes us to Q3, where we've held and continue to hold some meetings with other government entities, but really we're hoping in the fall, in September, to have that large joint meeting. And that's another one of my updates. So I'll hold off on that one for just a little bit. To hold another focus group, and we're gonna be working again to try to get younger adults, so individuals 18 to 25 is gonna be kind of our next area. And so we'll be working with St. Martin's, South Puget Sound Community College, and then also reaching out to maybe some trade groups as well to try to make sure we're getting broad perspectives and voices there. And then we've completed looking at community celebrations. And so you all adopted the recommendations for the policy at the last meeting, and that'll be coming before the council in September. And that's also something I've put in a budget request for 2026. And so I'll keep you updated on how the policy discussion goes with the city council, and then any budget dollars as well. We've reviewed the language access plan at our last meeting, and Veronica is working on rolling that out here with the city. We've also improved some of our front counter staff as communications with our language line access. So all of those things are in alignment with what we're going to be doing there with providing better language access. And we continue to work on the comprehensive plan. And a couple of items that we have in progress are obviously the focus group that I mentioned that'll be coming hopefully in September, October. And then also one of the items identified in our diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging strategic plan was taking a look at maybe some policies for departmental equity teams, which we haven't gotten to quite yet. So we'll have an update hopefully a little bit later on where that is. And then Q4, you'll see we have a lot of not started, and that's because we're not in Q4 yet, but we do want to continue to take a look at some of these other items, which would be holding another focus group, recruiting for COE members if necessary. We did make that recommendation, like I mentioned, for celebrations, taking a look at contracting opportunities, and then working on other items, and then finally coming up with a recommendation for a work plan for 2026. And starting the planning for the 2026 regional summit, which I know is already in progress and will continue on. So I just wanted to provide a really quick recap of where we were at and see if there were any questions or comments from the commission.
I see John has his hands up.
Hey, yes, Shannon, I heard a lot of mention of presenting them for 2026 budget. I'm wondering if you think it's appropriate for us to make a specific line item request for the 2026 DEI summit for Thurston County, or if it would just be included in the kind of more umbrella of like community engagement and stuff like that. Given it's not strictly a city event, it would be more of a collaboration between us and other major jurisdictions, including the county themselves. So I guess I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, that's a great question, Commissioner Hegwood, and I did request some dollars for equity programming and events. And so that's certainly kind of the intent and idea behind that request would be to make sure that we're thinking about what could be some city contributions to the DEIB summit.
Perfect.
Question. Under Q3, where we talk about in the engagement column, where we're talking about holding joint meetings with DEI, educational representatives and this kind of thing. We talked at a joint meeting with the city about engaging directly with the school board at the policymaking level. And I don't see them included in the way this is stated when we say administrators. So where in here are we, is that on the calendar before this 2025 year is up or what?
Yeah, and that was part of, why we decided to have the last North Thurston Public School District meeting as kind of a joint forum, was to provide those opportunities to make sure that we're inviting the community to have opportunities to collaborate with both the city and North Thurston Public Schools. And so
The one in River Ridge?
Correct.
Oh, it wasn't structured that way at all. Well, let you finish your statement. I'm sorry.
Well, I was gonna say, I believe, that we hold 2 joint meetings a year, and so we still have a second one coming up. And I think the idea is to hold something similar as well, where there's an opportunity for community engagement and participation.
So if that served as the interaction with the school board, it was not set up that way at all. It was focused on the construction, the housing, what was going on at River Ridge. Then we had table conversations led by a facilitator and the report out kind of model. That was it. Thank you for coming. So when we talk about Equity Commission being able to sit down jointly with the school board, the policymakers, I had no idea that meeting was constituting that attempt.
That meeting also, also had the themes of homelessness and addiction or
Mhm,
something.
homelessness and
Yeah.
substance abuse.
So maybe we could ask for that kind of setting, but more on the racial injustices that are happening that we've been talking about, we've been hearing about.
I just didn't know that that setting was supposed to serve as the thing we were asking for, because I want the focus to be on students, student achievement, what's happening in the schools with students, the racial disparities, the disproportionality in discipline, who's graduating, who's not. I mean, that kind of thing. There's a lot of grumbling in the community about what's happening in the schools. So to go to that setting where you're talking about housing and substance abuse, and it had pretty good attendance, and we sat there in the tables and listened to the presentations and chatted around the table and reported out and went home. No contact per se between Equity Commission and school board as we were trying to articulate a desire to do. Am I understanding or over expecting, or what's going on with
No,
me?
I think you're asking for something different than what that.
Yeah, I didn't know that was that.
Yeah.
It was so minimal as far as they were sitting around their rectangle tables, and here we were back here. Not even physical, hello, how are you today? Good to be here kind of thing. It was come in and take your seat at the assigned table, and who was there besides me?
Oh.
Were you there?
Mm.
Yeah, I think it was just the two of us. But only homelessness and substance abuse as it related to the student aspect of it. But it was generally speaking about what's going on in the community. You had the school resource officer from the police department, you had some counselors and that kind of thing, but I'm sitting here saying, I didn't realize that that was supposed to be the forum between the Equity Commission and the school board. So I'd like us to rethink that and get more specific, realizing that we aren't advisors to them. They're a separate elected entity. But we're hearing and picking up information in the community that's worthwhile for them to hear from us as policymakers in the district with another school year starting. And so, other than that,
I think it's worth an ask. I mean, I know we're not advisors to them. They're not the city of Lacey, but I think it's worth an ask if they would like to come and sit down with us.
well, in my transition from the gym to my car, I was walking with the chair of the board.
Mm.
And she was saying, thank you for being here. I said, well, we're really looking forward to it. I didn't know that was it. And she was said, by all means, give me a call. Let's get something going. I didn't know. I said, we'll follow up. But I didn't know that was serving as what we were asking for. So here we are on the beginning of another school year with a lot of unresolved school issues for kids. The substance abuse and the homelessness was kind of community, family kind of thing versus academically related, student-teacher relations related, those kinds of things. So when I saw that, the engagement was now to include school administrators, and I just didn't see any reference to school boards. And that's the group we're trying to get some communication with.
Yeah, and I think again, commissioners, like this was the first time we have held a meeting in that type of format. And so I'm happy to take the feedback that you've all provided tonight and make sure that it gets communicated both, to the city and to North Thurston Public Schools. So I appreciate the insight and the feedback.
Great.
Anything else? Not unless any other commissioners have any other questions.
All right, then we can move along, and it is commissioners' reports and 5th anniversary block party. So Commissioner Jackson, Brown, and Clay, you were all there?
Yes.
Please tell us about it.
Well, this is the 50th year anniversary of New Life Baptist Church, and the celebration of the anniversary has been divided into 3 parts. So first was the actual church service anniversary, the first Sunday in June, which was exactly the 50 years since it was begun. And then second was the community block party. And coming up for the third leg is the formal gala on September 20. And so it's kind of been a year-long celebration of 50 years. But Saturday went really, really well. Great turnout. Lots of young people, lots of kids. They had a ball in those bouncy houses and eating snow cones and playing games and entertainment stage and music, and it really went well. So it started 12 and broke up about 3. But I'd say, what, about 250, 275 people or so?
Was it mainly for the church?
No,
community?
community block party.
Community.
Community, and we had a lot of community people there. City manager was there the whole time, from beginning to end. Uh, uh, City of Lacey had a booth in partnership with the Parks and Recreation. Lots of attention over there because, as Annie said, they were giving out some goodies. They had senior services, YMCA, the Joe News organization, they were there. It went really, really well. Wow. Really well. Started out cool, but the sun came out and people shared those jackets and sweaters and really enjoyed
Yeah.
the rest of the day. Food truck, and we had a dunk tank, dunking the deacons, and lots of fun, lots of variety of things, and a lot of people who were on the campus of the church for the first time from the surrounding community. So that was the whole idea, a community block party.
How was it outreached, the outreach went?
Flyers,
Flyers.
social media, and yeah, everything we could legally do as a church.
So you have a plan to do again?
Well, I don't know.
For 50
I
years?
don't know. Turned 50 once. They put a lot into the 50th, maybe the 75th, but not, we won't be repeating that again because that was specifically such a milestone, given how many churches shut down during COVID, never did
Absolutely.
reopen their doors. Due to death and loss of COVID, ministers, and so just to, in a community like this, to have survived for 50 years, it was worth the extra preparation. Where it goes from here, we'll be evaluating something maybe, but not on the scale it was this past Saturday. Yeah.
Yeah, too bad I missed it.
Annie was there, and Cliff and I are members there.
And I was there.
Yeah, in addition to the other city people.
Rick Walk was there?
Rick was there from the beginning to the end, yeah.
Right, yeah, Tumwater's mayor, commissioner, city council members from Tumwater and others, was there. But, I serve on the community engagement committee with Dr. Jackson at the church, and, this is part of a comprehensive plan as far as outreach to the community, being a community church. So you can see back early in the year when we do the MLK and the Black History Month and doing these things, it's an ongoing effort to really be a part of the community, show the community that we're a church and live and well and concerned with the community. We have programs that happen every week, to fight food
Food pantry.
pantries. We have all types of things on an ongoing basis, and we just want to show the community that we're here for you. And you can feel free to come and visit and be a part of it, or just come to us for resources, not just a church on the hill for Sunday services. We're more than that.
And we have plans in the works for things like a health and fitness fair, bringing in health providers, because there are certain diseases and all that Blacks and other people of color are more prone to than others in society. And to, bring those trucks and vans and mammogram buggies or whatever. So that's in our plan, it's a community thing. And then a financial literacy academy aimed at the young people as well as the older public, with a tie-in to home ownership. So it's those kinds of social service kinds of things that we're trying to, like Cliff said, get the message out there. This isn't just a place to meet for religious sakes on Sunday, but Monday through Saturday, we feel as though there's some Christian responsibility to the community. So it was trying to get that message out. Welcome, all is welcome. And so it went extremely well for the first, and probably will be the first and last time for a 50th anniversary. And we'll see where the community block party idea might, be decided to continue in some other form, but that was quite a scale we had it on. But I was glad to see Annie.
Just curiosity now, is church 501c3? Are
Pardon
you
me?
a church, a nonprofit where you can
Yes.
accept a charitable
Yes.
donation, grants and so forth, where
Yes.
you could do all
Yes.
that?
Yes, a 501c3. So we have coming up our 2-month-long voter registration, the whole month of September and October, after church service for a couple of hours. And then on October 18th, we have a candidate forum, nonpartisan and non-endorsing. And last year we did it and got a tremendous turnout from the Black community. And candidates were just surprised to see that many people of color in one place asking political kinds of questions, but they never have an opportunity to do that. So it's a meet and greet, and then all candidates are given an opportunity to make that elevator speech to the group. And then you have a one-on-one opportunity to visit with those candidates, pick up their literature, ask questions. And so that's on the calendar for October 18th again. So it's those kinds of things that the community engagement ministry has been responsible for, but the anniversary is the entire church and all of the ministries working together.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
What a great work you're doing. Now, is that after that the new minister started? Have you done that work before?
Not like.
Not like in the
He
scale.
will have been here 3 years in October, and he hit the ground running, and he is working us pretty good. But he came with the vision of community inclusiveness. That had not been present before. A church having its own candidate forum, and he speaks very strongly, from the pulpit during his sermons about the threat under which we are losing democracy and the need to make your voice heard, and there's nothing but he cleverly can quote it right to scripture, and show where he's not just out there whistling Dixie, that, scriptural, but anyway, most of this activity has been due to his arrival and his vision and his recognition that, and his feeling is that the church has to be in the community in order for the community to know the church is there so they could possibly be in the church. So, but like I said, we have a lot of veterans. We do Memorial Day and Veterans recognition. And when they play the music of all the branches of military, and the people stand based upon, I'm surprised that almost 3/4 of the church has stood during the playing, whether you're a spouse, a parent. And so that's how
That's true.
we know we have such a strong military presence in the community and in that church. So veterans memorials, I mean, there's something going on all the time, all the time. Yes.
Right. Thank you.
And
Anybody,
did we miss
online?
anything?
Just that it was fun. It was great to be invited to the, to the community and be together, to listen to good music. Yeah, it was just very comfortable. Very
Great.
great celebration.
you.
Okay. So nobody from online have any comments, questions? Not, we can move on to director. reports.
I have a new item under us.
Okay,
I want to recognize Kieran, as this is possibly her last
Yeah.
meeting with us, and I so have appreciated her involvement with us, all her words and her feedback in all of our planning this past year, and her special participation in the DEIB summit, being on the youth panel, and just want to encourage you to, when you can, come around and apply for the commissioner position.
I've definitely been thinking about it. I'm 18 in September, so there's ever an opening.
Uh,
Yeah.
uh,
I do believe I am here in August. Maybe not.
Oh, I was,
Yeah, we'll
somehow
love
my
it.
senior brain said this was August, but it wasn't. Good.
Yeah, and maybe just a little bit of clarification. So we just did our last recruitment for the Lacey Youth Council. And we got, I think it was 25 applications in totality for 15 spots. So every year
Good.
we've seen an increase in applicants, which I think is fantastic. And they're from every school, from the public schools. We also had a homeschool student as well. We don't have as much representation as we had last year from some of our online schools or some of our private schools, but we did see a huge number of folks apply. And so we're gonna be moving forward with the interviews in the first week of August, with the idea that we would be taking, the mayor would be taking a recommendation to the city council sometime mid-August for appointment. And so they will be holding their orientation on August 26th. And so that leaves us the August 25th meeting kind of between when they would have appointed their next member to be a representative here. So we will be getting a new member for our September meeting. So Kieran, I think you are more than welcome to keep joining us through
more.
August if you
One
would
more.
like to. But then we will have a new face come August 26th to join us from the Lacey Youth Council. But
So
Kieran,
August will be my goodbye.
Yeah, all right.
Thank
I
you.
want to echo though what
Good.
Commissioner Clay just mentioned of thank you for being a part of the Commission on Equity and for providing your perspective and your voice. We really appreciate it and we really need it. So thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
hanging in with us in the summer, when it's not really even school. So we really, really appreciate your voice.
Thank you. And I just finished school Friday because I was at school till 4:30. So yeah, but I have all of August off. I'm very thankful for that. But I am on the planning committee for the upcoming DEIB summit. So I definitely will still be seeing you all. So
Great,
thank you.
great. Mhm.
And speaking of that, if I may, I wanted to thank Karen specifically for her leadership. Whenever I tapped her to ask her to be a part of that planning committee, it was very apparent that we had no youth voices and we were sitting around dictating what we thought the youth should do. And I was like, why don't we just ask them? And they can, do whatever they like or what they feel is necessary and relevant. And they did. And Kieran took the reins with that and ran with it. And it was probably the biggest highlight of the entire day, if I may be so bold to make that claim, and really set the tone for the rest of the summit. And I think the youth panel specifically is why a lot of people really enjoyed it and what will keep people coming back. So thank you again, Karen. Incredibly valuable to the community, to our commission. And your leadership is certainly appreciated and seen. So thanks.
Thank you. It was definitely an amazing opportunity, and I'm hoping to be involved in the youth panel specifically more for the next summit too. So thank you for reaching out to me. I feel very important that people can come to me, and so thank you.
Great. Okay, any other commissioner? Okay, it's all yours, director's report.
All right, well, I got a list of just brief updates. First thing before I forget, is there a commissioner who would like to do the inspirational item
Yeah.
for?
I'll do it.
Okay, great. Commissioner Clay for our August inspirational item. For my first report, I already mentioned the equity map is live. So I just want to repeat, it's up there and we developed a whole web page on it as well, so that if people have questions about how it's used, what's kind of the science behind it, what the data points are, they can go to that website and get a lot of information on it. We'll be sending it out as part of we did last week, our Lacey Weekly, which is our digital newsletter. We'll be posting it on our social media, and then we'll also be posting it out in our print media, which is the Lacey Life. So there'll be plenty of opportunities for community members to access that information. Second item I have is the National Community Survey. So just to recap again, I know you all received a presentation from Ty Keltner, our communications manager, talking about this survey that we were doing in the community, where we sent out a random sample of 3,000 surveys to residents in Lacey. We did get enough responses to that survey to have a statistically valid survey. So we'll have those results to report out to you all in August. And it's highly connected to our diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging strategic plan, like I previously mentioned. We also had a public portion of the survey as well. And so we did have a lot of folks take that. And there actually are quite a bit of differences between the two survey sets. And so we'll be able to take a look at it. But one of the great things in the preview that I have gotten of the results from the communications department is that there is a dashboard that will be available for community members to review, where you can take a look at the questions and how respondents answered to them from the statistically valid survey. And you can filter it by different demographics. You can filter it by different areas. And so we can see, based on the responses we got, are there any, statistically evident differences between groups, and that could lead to questions of, do we need to research this more? What could be some opportunities? What could be some challenges? And so it's a really, I think, going to be a very insightful tool to use to dive into kind of where our community's at right now as a baseline for doing this every 2 years, so that we can continue to see if the efforts we're doing as a city, or maybe as a partner with other community groups, or even as an advocate, are impacting us over time. So we'll get a much more thorough overview of that in August. The third thing I have, which is the Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging Advisory Board regional meeting. I did hear back from the county, and I think you all are going to have a very busy September. So I think everybody should make sure that this gets on the calendar for right now. Put a tentative hold on September 22nd, which is our typical meeting time and date. And so we're looking to have on that date potentially a joint meeting with the Thurston County Racial Equity Commission, as well as the City of Olympia's Social Justice Committee, and hosted at tentatively the atrium for Thurston County. So more details will certainly be coming on that item. So right now, if you could just put a hold on September 22nd, that would be appreciated. And we'll be working through some agenda items for that. I know one of the agenda items that was brought up was an Alice report, and that was
Yeah.
Vice Chair Jackson who brought that up. So we'll be exploring that. And then just as a kind of a base level setting of, where is the community at in Thurston County? So we'll be hopefully trying to add that to that list. And if we can't make it work for that list, this kind of bleeds into my fourth item. We're also looking to host maybe a joint meeting with our Human Services Commission and the Commission on Equity, because that information would be very helpful for our Human Services Commission as well. So this could happen in September, but based on how many activities we have planned for September, it may not. It may be in October. But they typically meet on the first Thursday of the month. So that would be September 4th or October 3rd. So September 4th may be a little bit tight because you all have a retreat on that Saturday. So just trying to balance out how many activities you all do in September, but we're gonna see what are some possibilities and availabilities, especially trying to work with United Way to make sure that we have a representative like Chris Wells there to report out on kind of the status of Thurston County.
Because I facilitated the session with us. And we came to an agreement that, yes, we wanted to do this. You know, there were some very specific things that we talked about that they had interest in following up on. Some very specific things that we do in this equity commission that others were excited about and wanted to try to emulate us. There were some very specific things around community outreach and how we do it and how they do it and what works. You know, so as we're looking at an agenda for that, you know, I would like to be involved. I put it like that because I don't want, what I don't envision is us having this global agenda and we don't deal with specific things that this group said they wanted to talk about, they wanted to improve. They were saying, Lacey, you hit a home run in this area. We want to learn how you do that and see if we can emulate that. Those types of things that I want to make sure that we are focusing in on that versus some global approach to it.
Yeah, we've done the global part a couple times.
Right, yes. So, you know, as we're building that agenda, that's my request.
Understood, and I think first thing we just want to do is make sure that everybody can come on a date and then we can start building the agenda. But on that note, I wrote down here outreach involvement and kind of Lacey's kind of specific background. And if there are other things to be aware of, I'd be happy to write that down and then we can, as we get some more details firmed, have some folks from the Commission on Equity help participate in kind of designing the agenda with some other commissioners.
Yes, there was some things like, say, well, give us an example of something you did, an accomplishment. We give an example, they go, wow, great. How did you do that? We're interested in learning how to do that. You know, it was that, you know, clear that they were really interested in doing some very specific things and not just having time to go on and on and on. And around staffing and resources of their various commissions and groups and all, they were committing to do that because the sentiment was, don't create a entity and not resource it. And they're like, yes, we got it, we know. I said, don't waste your time if you're gonna do that. And some of them have done that in the past, but they committed. And so we wanna have a conversation around that. So the county, Tumwater, whomever, Olympia, Rainier, whomever, yeah, we have an equity representative. That's it. You know, they committed to not wasting people's time and not just communicating to the public, but doing nothing because they don't resource it properly.
Well, I gave Chris Wells of United Way a heads up that someone would be making contact with her for the excellent information that all of us equity people and staff, whatever, they can appreciate and understand as we are talking about, you know, second tier work that we've got to do, you know, going back to my quote from earlier, not what people say, but it's what people do. But she's on the lookout for whomever is gonna reach out and make a contact with her on a date. Now, did you mention a date for our retreat?
Yes, yep, so it is September 6th is what we've the doodle poll showed was the date that most folks could make it. I know Commissioner Hegwood unfortunately cannot make it, but everybody else has indicated.
Okay,
So if you could put a hold on that one as
Yeah,
well, and we'll be
okay.
continuing to work through the details. And you will absolutely be getting some updates from me between now and our next meeting on what that is going to look like, where it's going to be, and kind of more definitive on the time frame. So right now it's from 9 to 1 p.m. So please keep that.
It's local somewhere?
We haven't determined the exact location, but if not at the Lacey Veteran Services Hub or even our community room, it will be at a local within kind of the greater Lacey, Tumwater, Olympia area.
Not at Alderbrook or anything. Yeah.
No, sorry, Commissioner, no.
Oh, really?
No.
Why not?
Micro kitchens.
Okay.
So also again, like I just mentioned, kind of the third item kind of bled into the fourth item, but we'll be looking potentially to also set up a joint meeting with Human Services Commission. And that may fit well to kind of go over, you know, where we're at as a county as a baseline. But also Michelle Chavez, our Human Services Coordinator, has been working really hard on our kind of equity, excuse me, our Human Services Needs Assessment. And so there may be an opportunity for us to jointly talk about that with the Human Services Commission. And one last update, I talked to Commissioner Clay briefly about this, but I think Commissioner Clay was showing off a sticker on her water bottle here. And I just wanted to let the group know that we are also looking into creating some
Holy.
additional handouts
Okay, that's really nice.
to add to our future displays, and also just to make sure we're handing out to, you know, businesses on how we're a welcoming community and city. So more to come on that.
Shannon, I would just comment that as we're talking about our joint meeting with the other equity commissions, and here's the Human Service Commission, this report that Chris is going to make would be perfect for the Human Services Commission to be invited, included, whatever. And once you hear it, you'll see why, you know, I was just blown away by the depth of this report that she makes. And it applies to us and them, and, you know, when she makes a statement, I'll just kind of summarize it. For years, the United Way has raised and doled out millions and millions of dollars to community groups to provide services and resources. And then she pours out this data in every segment and say, we've got to do something differently because we have failed. We aren't making a difference in the lives of people in spite of the millions of dollars we have given out all these years. And she goes from birth rates to, I mean, it's just mind-boggling. So it's called an ALICE report, and it stands for 5 words.
Yeah, I went in and checked it. So.
Yeah.
So the Human Services Commission would really benefit to hear this report as well. But yeah, she's ready to be invited. Just get the 22nd on her date and details can come later.
So I'm curious, I mean, I could wait, supposedly, but if millions of dollars were put into community, what happened? Why is it not making any difference? Because it didn't reach the right people?
She gets into all that.
Okay, so just wait, huh?
Just wait. She gets, no, yeah.
Yeah, September 22nd.
Yeah, she gets into all that. She gets into all
Yeah,
that,
where's
you
the
know,
money go then?
you know.
It didn't make a difference.
Look out,
It, you know, I'm not gonna try to speculate what her presentation usually says, but it gets your attention. You sit up straight and you listen, you know. When she talks about 50% of 5 and under children in Thurston County are not kindergarten ready. So that means they're starting kindergarten not ready. If they're not ready at kindergarten, there's no way they're gonna be reading by 3rd grade. If they aren't reading by 3rd grade, we have begun the school to prison pipeline for that child. I mean, it's just, and it's just amazing how she ties it all together. And she talks about the poverty levels that everything is measured against. You qualify for this if you're 35% of, she said that's a 1940. a 1940 reference point. She ties it into homelessness and housing and two people in a household working, both college graduates, and can barely make ends meet by the end of the month. She talks about the lack of childcare and the disregard and disrespect for childcare workers. I mean, it just goes on and on and on, but the picture is painting, but the bottom line is, she finishes and says, we've got to do better. What are we gonna do? So us and equity and human services and all those folk were just sitting there stunned, just stunned by this data she was presenting. And it's a nationwide project. It's not just state of Washington or Thurston County.
Yeah, I saw
But it's
the
pulled.
people who were involved, they're very diverse, different field experts, different field that they represent, so I was taken by how so many people involved. So it's not just one segment, so that's a good thing, but yeah, I don't know.
But her
I just-
particular presentation focuses on Thurston County, not the state, not the nation, but this is our community. This is a picture of Thurston County. And it's mind-boggling. It really, it takes equity and discussions about equity to a whole different level. Diversity,
Are we-
equity, inclusion. It takes it to a whole different level.
So we have a plan to bring her in for presentation or?
The
Yeah.
joint meeting.
Yep,
the
we're
joint meeting.
hoping either the joint meeting, and if we can't make that work, then again, having a joint meeting with Human Services, but based on, so we'll be reaching out to Chris here soon.
So it won't happen in August or September?
No, it would be in September, and maybe early August or October. So late September or early October.
But she's ready whenever the formal invitation comes her way. The sooner we can get on her calendar, whichever date it's gonna be. And
I'm looking forward to hearing.
It's interesting, there are some good indicators on this equity map and it's good to get it on a computer, not on your telephone. But that occurs to me that one indicator we haven't looked at is childcare desert and childcare prices in that livability section. I don't know.
So yeah, when I went into the website, try to look for some of these, it was overwhelming. I didn't even know where to start, to be honest. So if the person
huge.
come and talk about it with focus of, then that'll be, and then we can ask questions and so, yeah. I mean, I went to the website, it was overwhelming
Of the LS website.
to start.
one other quickie, just to give you kind of a Pearson thing she talks about. So a young couple today beginning a family, the minute they find out they're pregnant, they're looking for a daycare to get on a waiting list for 5 years from now.
Oh.
Or 3 years from now. Childcare is that much of a shortage. And quality childcare is another whole story, where they aren't just being babysat. I mean, it's things that I, as a grandmother with adult grandchildren, I haven't thought about in years. It's like, oh my God, you know,
Yeah,
That's
so
you.
my daughter's stay-at-home mom.
she can't afford childcare.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on and on and on. So anyway, thank you. I'm looking forward to the joint meeting and her presentation again.
All right. Anything,
That's a chair.
anybody else have any questions, anything before? Okay, if there's no other business, I adjourn the Commission on Equity meeting at 7:08.
Right.
Wow.
Yay,
Hey.
this is